Hello, lovelies. Today we are taking a look at Broken Vows. This is the 1987 made-for-TV film. It runs roughly an hour and 35 minutes, and it has a pretty good cast on it. It's an interesting little hidden gem. I'm surprised I haven't heard of it before, but I enjoyed it. It's a fairly basic plot, but it has some fairly good character development. There's definitely something in there that really holds the interest, in my opinion at least. But to me, what was funny was seeing Tommy Lee Jones cast as a priest. I'm not used to seeing him this way, so it's just really funny to me because I'm used to seeing him as the tough guy, like as Jay in Men in Black, or he was in The Fugitive, and I don't know. It's a very funny change for me, but it shows how versatile he is. I think he did well in the role. He plays a Catholic priest who is having somewhat of a, not necessarily a religious, but a personal crisis of sorts. And this comes about because as he's preparing to I don't really know how you word it, how to preside over confession. He is pulled away to give the last rites to a dying man. So it's interesting how this kind of tinkers with his mind, and he starts questioning his faith or his purpose, or how helpful or useful he really is as a priest, which it's a common theme in I imagine just about anyone's life. It's even touched very well upon in From Dusk Till Dawn, where obviously the preacher, Jacob, I believe his name was, he says regardless of whatever your religious background is, at some point or another you're going to question whether you're going to question your faith, or whether or not what you're doing is actually productive or useful or helpful. And this is exactly what Father McMahon, or Tommy Lee Jones' character, is going through. So he's kind of rattled by the day's event, and it's funny to me because he goes back to his room. He's watching TV. He's having an alcoholic beverage, and the I don't recall what his name was, if it was the Monsignor, but he's basically just asking him if he's doing okay, and they have this discussion. And from there, it really propels the story. So we eventually run across a young woman. Her name is Nana Marie. She happens to be the girlfriend of the man who had died. He had stab wounds. He had been inflicted by stab wounds. That's what he died from. And she herself is also an artist. They both are. So Nana Marie, who is played by Annette O'Toole, which is an excellent actress in my opinion as well. I primarily know her from it, as well as Cat People, which is one of my favorite films. But I think she carries her part very well also. And it's interesting, kind of this little jab or go between that Nana and Father McMahon have going on. It's funny to me because he tracks her down, and initially upon meeting her, because he helps her carry her groceries up to her apartment, I forget how many floors up, and she offers him an alcoholic drink, and he fibs and says he doesn't partake, which we already know to not be true because we saw him in a previous scene having an alcoholic drink. So it's funny to me, just kind of these little white lies that the good father tells. But it's interesting. I'm not really quite sure what to make of it. She's either curious or she's just a very free-bodied person. She's a bit flirty. She says things that maybe she shouldn't say to a priest. Not just that, but she's supposed to be grieving over a dead boyfriend, and here she is flirting with a priest. So I don't know if the interest for her is more the fact that he's forbidden. He's not meant to be of that world. He can't break his vow. And I guess to a degree that's kind of an intrigue for some people. So I wasn't quite sure if it was just more of a game for her than anything else, which kind of held my interest, just these little go-betweens that they had between themselves. So the film is based off of a novel titled Where the Dark Secrets Go, which I have not read it myself, but I eventually do want to check that out. Along the way, Father McMahon decides to help Nana Marie with discovering the killer of her dead lover, and somehow they discover that there is a gallery that's presenting the works of two artists, which happens to be the two different aliases which were used by the dead guy, Emil something or other. And quite ironically, a lot of the things from his apartment have gone missing. His artwork has been stolen. So they travel out to check out this gallery, only to discover that the work being presented is not his, but for some odd reason they're just using just two very suspicious names as far as in conjunction with this person. And over a course of a couple of days, one of the gallery owners, for some odd reason, decides to invite Nana to dinner. What in the world kind of a name is Nana? She sounds like a granny. But so they invite her to dinner. She does not want to go alone, so she wrangles Father McMahon into going with her. Which is kind of funny, this scene, because when she tells him she admits that she did not want to go alone, he quickly gets this little grin on his face, kind of like, ooh. So that's when I begin to suspect, oh, he likes her too. There's definitely something going on here, even though it should be a case of nothing doing, but somebody is interested in somebody. Maybe two somebodies are interested in somebody. But they go to this dinner, and we pretty much just pick up where they're all meeting for, I guess, after dinner drinks after they've gone to this fancy French restaurant. We find that Father McMahon, in addition to having a fancy little feast, had some champagne at the apartment at their after dinner party. He's also having a couple of more drinks. So this is where he just kind of outs himself, in my opinion, as being a liar. We already knew as the audience beforehand that he drank alcohol, but now he's actually doing it openly. And Nana isn't the only person that he fibbed to about not drinking. He, early in the film, met someone at a bar and he was invited to drink. He said he didn't drink. So why have this consistent lie only to just come back out with the truth and do what he does? But it makes me more question than anything else. What else is the father lying about? Or what's he lying to himself about? What's he trying to convince himself so much about, or convince others? So that's interesting to me. I know I kind of went off there a little bit, but it's pretty much at this after dinner thing, they kind of look through some of her artwork, and she pulled out a portrait of Emil to test, I guess, this gallery fellow's reaction. He kind of gets a little quiet, doesn't really seem to let on that he knows anything, but obviously we discover later in the film that they knew each other, and this somewhat budding romance between the father and Nana, it still kind of teeters. Do they like each other, or do they not like each other? So eventually the question becomes, do they or don't they? I'm not telling you, just watch the movie. I would encourage you to watch this one. This one's a good one. I enjoyed it. But yes, we do eventually discover who Emil's killer was as well. I don't want to spoil that, but I really enjoyed this film, especially just from just an observation point of view. Like I said, just the way that Nana just kind of teases and pokes at the good father, and eventually, yeah, he gives her a good ribbing back, which she didn't care for too much, and she was asking for it, so how could you not expect that one, right? But I don't know. It's just the fact that this film kind of does touch on whether the work of a priest really does make change or impact in a person's life, and he's questioning in this. And I believe that's why he decided to help, Grandma Marie with finding the murder of her dead boyfriend, who we later discovered is actually married. So So he was a bit of a mister himself. But it's all just interesting to me. And as a person, we all, like I mentioned previously, we all question whether it's religious choices, work choices, lifestyle choices, what have you. We all question, is this really beneficial to me? Is this really making me happy? Whatever. But I think it's just a very interesting film. If you guys have seen this film, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you haven't, I would encourage you to check it out. It's actually very good for a TV film, and they do have, in my opinion, well cast actors. They're good actors. But that is pretty much all I have for you guys for today, and I will talk to you later.